The user interface architecture in Symbian OS is based on a core framework called UI-COM and a class hierarchy for user interface controls called the control environment. Together, they provide the framework which defines basic UI behavior, which is established by a concrete GUI implementation, and the internal plumbing which integrates the GUI with the underlying the graphics architecture. UCON was originally created as a refactoring of the Icon user interface library, which was part of the earlier version of the operating systems. And in the fonts, the main three parts in the main screens are status pane, main pane, and control pane. Status pane contains information about running applications, and main pane contains application contents, and the control pane contains the soft key labels. And the next thing we have to discuss is the application service layer. The application service layer provides support independent of the user interface for application on Symbian Operating System. These services divide into three broad groupings. System level services used by all applications. For example, the application architecture of text handling. Services that support generic type of application and application-like services, for example, personal productivity applications and data synchronization services. Also included are a number of key application engines which are used and extended by license, as well as legacy engines which license may choose to retain. Services based on more generic but application-centric technologies, for example, mail, messaging, and browsing. Applications in Symbian Operating System broadly follow the classes object-oriented model viewer controller pattern. The framework level support encapsulates an essential relationship between the main application classes. The application services layer reflects the way that the system as a whole has evolved. On the one hand, it contains essential application engines that almost no device can do without them, as well as a small number of application engines that are mostly now considered legacy. On the other hand, it contains the SIP framework, which provides the foundation for the next generation of the mobile applications and services. And the next thing is the OS service layer. The OS service layer is in effect the middleware layer of Symbian Operating System, providing the servers, frameworks, and libraries that extend the bare system below in its complete operating system. The services are divided into four major blocks. They are generic operating services, communication services, multimedia and graphics services, and connectivity services. Together, these provide technology-specific but application-independent services in the operating system. In particular, the following services are found here: communication frameworks, the common root server and ESOC service provider, the functions of all communication services. The telephony, networking, serial communication are the other things in this operating system service layer. The foundation layer of Symbian Operating System. The base services layer provides the lowest level of user-side services. In particular, the base services layer includes the file server and the user libraries. The microkernel architecture of the Symbian Operating System places them outside the kernel in user space. The other important system framework provided by this layer include the ECOM plugin framework, which implements the standard management interface between operating system. From this ECOM plugin framework is stored the data which provide the persistence model, the central repository, the DBMS. The base service layer also includes the additional components which are needed to create a fully functioning base port without requiring any further high-level services. The text window server and the text shell. Next thing is the kernel service layer, and also it includes the hardware interfaces layer. This is the lowest layer of the Symbian operating system. The kernel services and hardware interface layer contains the operating system kernel itself and the supporting components which abstract the interfaces to the underlying hardware, including the logical and physical device drivers and variant supports, which implements prepackaged support for a standard supported platforms. And the main kernels in Symbian operating systems are EKA1 and EKA2, and on these days the EKA2 kernel is using for the Symbian operating system version 9. As we know, Symbian operating system is mainly based on C++, and the C++ is a programming language which have all the modern features for a proper programmer. It has class concept and structures and all the other features. And the special thing is Symbian operating system, it has four different kind of classes. One is T class, C class, R class and M class. The T class contains the data type and C class contains the heap allocated classes derived from the C based, and R class contains the resources class and M means the interfaces class. These four classes are very essential on the programming side of Symbian operating system. Now let's move on to object orientation in Symbian operating system. In object-oriented programming, there are some principles for programmers. They are abstraction, data hiding, behavior hiding, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. This object orientation is an approach to design and programming rather than a fixed methodology. It's a way of thinking a programming style, a particular approaching or modeling a high-level principles providing the basic modeling tools of objects orientation. In abstraction, hides details by finding the commonalities between things so that the difference become variations. In the data hiding, the data inside objects acts states. Interfaces or behavior hiding express public behavior or public protocols and hides private behavior. Different object-oriented languages are vary in the ways they support these principles, but a small number of mechanisms are almost universal. The polymorphism, the headline characteristic of object-oriented language, is the result of abstraction and the basis of reuse. The mechanisms that enable objects to display multiple behaviors are superclasses, and others are subclasses. Next thing is thread management system in Symbian operating system. Threads are basic units of execution. A process always contains at least one thread. The first thread in a process is called the main thread. Since you have many threads normally running on a modern operating system, you need an approach how to manage these threads. Only one can run on a CPU at a time, so the operating system needs to determine which one get to the run at each given moment. This is called the CPU scheduling. Both Symbian operating system and Microsoft operating systems, they have this CPU scheduling. The CPU scheduler will context switch between the threads on a specific time interval.